Day and night, great trains rush toward the Hudson River, sweep down its eastern bank for 140 miles, and then Grand Central Station, crossroads of a million private lives.
It was Grand Central Station. So grand that it had its own radio show back in 1937. And starred in movies like North by Northwest, as regal and chiseled and full of grace as Cary Grant himself.
I'm just seeing some friends, sir.
When it was completed in 1913, Grand Central Terminal was a monument to the power and romance of the railroads. And so it is fitting, as the century draws to a close, that Grand Central Terminal is again as buffed and gleaming and glorious as it was back when the century was young.
It's just the size is just staggering when you see it now, isn't it?
I know. And if you think about it, it was a very bold step, even in 1913. We put the great space where the people are.
John Bell is the chief architect of the Grand Central restoration, hired by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority to return Grand Central to its former glory.
You almost feel as if you're in a cathedral or something
Yeah,
like that. There's something
right.
something uplifting about it.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's certainly got that feeling. People have said it's a cathedral for the common man, and I think that's a wonderful phrase because it really is. It does give people that feeling. They don't feel overpowered by it, but they really are a little bit in awe of it.
Grand Central Terminal was a palace for common people, one that you entered every day on your way to and from work. It was the place Americans gathered in 1962 to watch John Glenn blast into orbit, back when CBS had its offices there. But by then, it was apparent that the great age of rail travel was coming to an end.
Grand Central Station for a long time was a place you would try to get through just as fast as you could because there were people, panhandlers and...
Oh, nobody wanted to be here.
As railroads declined, so did Grand Central. Its windows covered up by advertising and grime. Its beauty so compromised that it looked in the 70s as if the great terminal might be destroyed.
I think we all realize how important it is to save these great and beautiful buildings like Grand Central Station.
It was Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis who led the fight to save Grand Central when it looked as if it might share the fate of the majestic Pennsylvania Station, which was demolished in the 1960s.
Over time, more and more commercial messages were added into the space to try and recoup the loss in the income from the railroad business.
When the huge Kodak sign, which had covered the windows over the east balcony, was finally taken down, John Bell was on hand to see New York commuters experience sunlight for the first time in 40 years.
So I came back here early in the morning and I just quietly stood over there, didn't say a thing, and watched the first commuters come in from the trains. And of course they had their heads down and they were roaring off to work to make the next million. And suddenly you saw one commuter do this to another commuter and point to the window. And there was this wonderful shaft of sunlight coming through. It was extraordinary.
Wasn't it a wonderful feeling?
Made it all worthwhile.
But there is
if you look up from the Grand Concourse these days, which people often do, you'll see the cerulean blue of a Mediterranean sky with golden constellations and twinkling fiber optic stars.
It's not a strictly accurate version of the constellations. It has the signs of the zodiac in it, but the artist expanded a little bit. First of all, it's a view of the constellations if you were above looking down on the constellation, as if you were God.
The sky ceiling didn't need to be repainted, just cleaned carefully by dozens of workers laboring 100 feet in the air on a specially built platform. Inch by inch, they wiped away decades of grime and tobacco smoke with a solution akin to lemon juice.
Yeah, it's hard to appreciate until you get back down there and look up. The magic unfolds.
Workers like John Moody.
We like finding the names of people that have worked on the ceiling, the original artists.
And Marge Allington, and Charles Driscoll, and Helen Hall, who wrote their names up here when the sky ceiling was painted during World War II.
And it's cool to be above it all. Up here you look down and everybody coming and going like crazy.
And workers like Charles Piranoli from the Bronx, who, like everyone else involved in this project, felt a part of history.
You know, you don't get to touch the ceiling in Grand Central all the time. This is a once-in-a-lifetime deal. This is great.
We couldn't close Grand Central down to do this. So we literally had a construction site for 3 years or so with a lot of people going through it every day. And one of the little things that would happen all the time, you'd be squirreled away in one part of the station with your hard hats on. Suddenly, a burst of people would come from a train. They wouldn't even stop. They keep walking like true New Yorkers. But they'd tap you on the shoulder and say, "Good job."
Good job.
Wonderful.
Today on the Grand Concourse, you can stroll on half an acre of Tennessee marble and descend into the lovely curves of 2 marble staircases, one at either end. The west staircase is original. The other, John Bell added to complete the original architect's intent.
Because even though that was never built, we knew that Whitney Warren, the original architect, really wanted to build that staircase.
Stroll down the newly sunlit ramp to the old oyster bar with John Bell, and you realize how much he loves this building and all its idiosyncrasies and secrets.
And this is called the Whispering Gallery. You go over there and we'll continue the... And we can continue this conversation.
That's amazing.
And it's because of this wonderful tile called a Guastavino tile, you can speak very softly.
Yeah,
that's why it's called the Whispering Gallery.
There are other secrets and joys in the new Grand Central. The apartment of financier John Campbell, for example, who entertained friends in this splendid pied-à-terre for 40 years. This spring, it will be restored and reopened as an elegant cocktail bar. And then there are the catwalks, which stretch the length of the glorious double-sided windows to the west and east.
Oh, this is great.
Isn't it wonderful? And this is a wonderful piece of technology because the original architects, they knew they had to connect all 4 corners of the building, so they needed passages. But they didn't want to block off the light. So they very deliberately designed this double wall of glass, but also a floor of glass. And these windows crank open, and then
It's really ingenious, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
It's all mechanical.
It's like a ship. I never get tired of watching the people crossing that floor.
Last October, Grand Central Terminal truly did look like a ballroom, as thousands of well-heeled New Yorkers, not a few celebrities, turned out for a gala rededication celebration. Caroline and John Kennedy Jr. were among the honored guests, and John paid tribute to his mother's invaluable contribution.
And though I can't claim with a straight face that she was one of the 500,000 commuters and strap hangers who daily pass through this building on their way to work with their brown bag in hand, she was determined to keep this building something that all New Yorkers could be proud of and all visitors in awe of.
And then it was back to business as usual.
359, Poughkeepsie, all aboard!
Commuters scurrying to work across Tennessee marble floors, not celebrities or royalty, but feeling a bit like it in the glow of New York's cathedral of the common man.